Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining us today for this live stream event. My name is Rebecca and I'm the event planner of Microsoft Reactor. Before we begin, I'd like to quickly go through 2 items. I also have the check-in link, which I'll circle back to, but if you want event resources, follow this link, check in, and you'll get some Learn modules and some other items. So our code of conduct, Microsoft Reactor seeks to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. So we encourage engagement in the chat, but just be mindful of your commentary and keep it on topic. Event guidelines, this is being streamed to YouTube. You should have access to closed caption on the YouTube channel if you need it. If you have questions, if this is your first time joining us on YouTube, you'll need to create an account to access the chat. Otherwise, just drop any questions or commentary into the chat. This session's being recorded. You'll not appear in the session, and then it'll be available later on our Reactor YouTube channel for on-demand access. So today's session is part of a month-long series hosted by Gwyn, a cloud advocate here at Microsoft. She's joined by Rishab, a DevOps engineer, and they're continuing to take us along on their journey through Azure, focusing on topics that are part of our Microsoft's 30-Day to Learn It challenge. I'll share a link to the challenge in the chat momentarily. In today's session, we'll be deploying a containerized app with Azure App Service. The session will run for approximately 60 minutes. With time for questions throughout. If you, as I mentioned before, have not done so already, please check into this session. The links for free Learn modules, the 30-day challenge, and also the GitHub repo that we'll be utilizing today will be available there. At this time, I'm going to pull up our guests here and let them take over at this point. Welcome. Hi, Gwyn. Hi, Rishab. Thanks for joining us again.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another session. I can't believe this is the last one of the series. I feel like just a couple of days ago, we were like planning these things out. We've gone through so much content, so much learning and things like that. So yeah, welcome. It's 55 degrees here. So I'm very, very excited for fall weather here in New York City. But how's everyone else doing?
Pretty good.
Doing all right. Yeah, we talked about this before, but I'm freezing.
Yeah. So like a quick hello to the chat. Let me know where you're checking in from. I'm a big fan of actually knowing, where people are checking in from. What's the weather like? What are you up to today? So, pop in those questions, those comments at any time in the chat. I'm joined by Rishab once again. We kicked off the series with Rishab with doing some real-time things with Azure SignalR, Blazor WebAssembly, some Azure Functions things. And now we are going to containerize a part of that application. And I personally am not an expert of any sorts with containers, so I figured I'd tap in Rishab, who's a DevOps engineer currently, and we'll run through some great content and learning today. Containers is one of those words that like you hear that and everybody wants to know more about it. It's like one of those buzzwords, I feel, right?
Yeah.
What do you think, Rishab?
No, for sure. Yeah. Containers, whether it be Docker or Kubernetes, is like a really popular buzzword, especially in the DevOps space right now. And yeah, even being a DevOps engineer, my containerization learnings just began. Mm-hmm. So I've been in DevOps for almost 6 months now, but we don't utilize containers yet. but that's where we are moving. So yeah, it was I learned a lot while trying to containerize this Blazor web app, which I think we built in the first session, which was around that crypto ticker that we built, which
Right.
reports price using the CoinGecko API. And then we had a couple of Azure functions in place with that information.
Oh, I think your mic went a little quiet. I don't know if anyone in the chat heard that a little too, but I want to check
cut out.
It
Oh,
cut
okay.
out. There you go.
Okay, cool.
That's a big difference there. Yeah, cool. So I like the idea that we took with this session as far as like taking something that we built and now like doing the next steps is, putting it in, a container and the whole DevOps aspect to it, because DevOps is one of those things where every single project has to have some aspect of it. Some practices, whether it be version control, almost every single project has it. Pipelines and to some extent containers as well. So anyway, I know you have a demo. We can dive into that too. I figured we could start by showing people like the end result and then sort of take a step by step after that. But I know people love to see like, hey, what are we working towards? So if we could start there, that'd be great.
No, for sure. And yeah, I think, so this is the project that we built in our first demo with the crypto.net ticker. And if we take a look at where we are headed, so
can you make that bigger? It's like the font size or the window size. Well, there we go. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. And if you go take a look at, so this was the original project that we built. And what we did is we just Dockerized that entire web app that we built with Blazor in order to be served as a container. So if we go take a look at, so there's a Docker file, and in order to serve our web app, I went with Nginx. So Nginx, people don't know, is open source web server, just like kind of like Apache, but it's really lightweight. I think its size is around 5 MBs, which is pretty good. But yeah, we just have the Nginx configuration and then a Docker file that builds our Docker container to serve our project. And Nginx is used as a web server. So if we go into the right repo here, I can show you how the right folder I meant. So Dockerized and crypto.
Can you make it one more, like larger, one more
Sure.
up? Try it. I think that's good. Chat, let me know what do you think about that size. Do you want to go a little bigger, or is that good? I think we're good, but let's keep going.
Okay, yeah. So what here we are using the docker build command, and since we are in the right folder, we have a period in the end and the image name or the tag that will use to name the image. And if we build that, yeah, this is my Docker extension giving me a weird error, but we'll go past that and wait for our Docker container to be built.
Okay. Cool. You know what? I forgot to ask you. What does it mean to containerize something? What isn't container? What benefits do we get by using a container?
I'm in that gray area too. And that's what I've been looking for, especially when it comes to like traditional apps, monolithic apps that we run on VMs straight away. Like you serve it to, you use IIS to serve it. I feel like you have more control over the scaling of the app when you use containers, and the way the resources are utilized on that specific VM, if you use it for containerization, is better than just running a monolithic single tenant app on a server. So you might be able to utilize or run multiple instances of the same app using containers on that one particular VM. That's the number one, I think, selling point, especially from where I am coming, for me to containerize the app. I'm 100% sure there are like multiple other good points that might that make you consider to move towards containers.
Yeah, and when it comes to sort of like services or technology, I know Docker is probably just like it's your go-to. Like when you think containers, you don't really think anything else. Well, in my brief experience, looking into containers, do you know any other services out there? I really just think it's Docker, like the one that just beats them all.
Yeah, I think I haven't used any. I've only used Docker, and then to orchestrate and stuff like Kubernetes is the famous one there. But yeah, I don't know what's a good alternative to Docker.
Okay, chat. If you've used anything besides Docker to sort of create your container images and things like that, let me know. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. It looks like the font size is good. That's great. We got people checking in from Dubai, London, where we got Kenya, UK. So a big shout out to all of you. All right, Rishab, where are we at?
So as you can see, all of our steps have been completed to create our Docker image. And now what I'm going to do is run the Docker run command, which basically says, okay, map the local 3500 port to port 80 of the container that we built. So we'll go ahead and run that. And you can see it's serving our app that we built with Blazor. And if I go to...
Probably want to zoom in on this one.
We specified port 3500. And I'll go ahead and zoom in. So this is our Blazor web app that we built in the first demo. And if we go to tickers, so it's still using Azure Functions, which Gwyn has hosted in Azure to pull the crypto prices for us. And we are using Docker to serve our front end, which is the Blazor web app here. But yeah, that's a container that's running right now.
Okay, so this is running locally, but
Yes.
with Docker locally, not just like how we were running it on our first session, correct?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And then I know you also were able to deploy this to Azure App Service.
Yes.
Right. Do you have a version at the moment? I know we're going to walk through this, but do you have a version right now that's already deployed that we could just look in, like the portal?
I have the resources. I haven't deployed it yet.
All right. Well, you want to step through that now?
Sure. Yeah. So, this is my account here in Azure, and we have a Blazor web app resource group. And I think because of the zooming, I can't see.
You might have to scroll. Can you scroll down a little? Maybe it's
Yeah, it's not letting me scroll. Okay.
Oh wow. Okay.
If I zoom a little bit out, I don't know if you guys are able to see, but we have an app service plan. So that's what we will use to host our app. It's a web app in Azure, and it's also using containers as web app. So that is a service that you can, like when you try to deploy a web app, it asks you what you want to use it for. So I've specified containers there. And then we also have a container registry in Azure. So that's where our image that we built via Docker would be published. So it would sit in a repository, which is the Blazor Web App Container Registry.
All right, cool. So now we can step through sort of the like piecing apart the files that you've put together, and then we can deploy. I know you have some. I think you mentioned you have some GitHub Actions stuff here as well.
Yeah. So yeah, we will be using a GitHub action to basically build the Docker image. So what the commands that we used locally. So build and then also publish that Docker image to Azure Container Registry. And then we'll also use the same GitHub action to publish that container image as an app to the app service. So those three things will be included in the GitHub action.
Okay, and for the chat, if you might or may not be familiar with GitHub Actions or something like Azure Pipelines, or
Yeah.
what are some other very popular CI/CD tools out there, like Circle CI, CI, like Travis CI,
Yeah.
things like that. But
TeamCity,
yeah,
Jenkins. Yeah.
it automates because whenever you make a change, you don't want to have to manually, all right, make the change, save it, push it somewhere, and then actually deploy it. You want it to run through these steps of, like, for lack of a better word, actions, like, oh, let me test this, let me make sure it's going to the right place, right? So there's less, manual labor and less, I guess, space for errors. So that's what we're going to utilize GitHub Actions for in this case. All right, cool. I think we're ready to dive into the first step. We could start with probably the Docker file. That might make sense, unless you have another. I guess what's the first thing that we have to explain here?
I think I'll since we'll be using Nginx to serve our entire web app, I'll go ahead and start with that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's do it.
And just to make things to make more sense, we'll go ahead and try to Dockerize the app that Gwyn has. So it doesn't have any Nginx or Docker files here. So we'll use.
So we're gonna do it from scratch.
Yeah.
Nice.
Let's do it that way. So yeah, it makes more sense.
Let's do it.
Cool. Okay. So if we close this, and we go to crypto ticker, make sure I'm in the right directory. Yep. And then we create our Nginx file. So it's called nginx.conf. And we'll start with, so I don't recommend this configuration if you'll be using this for production workloads. Please go ahead and read the Nginx documentation. This is just to get us started and serve our app. So Nginx has MIME types, and by default, they have some default MIME types. We'll include that. And also, we need to make sure the WebAssembly is supported. So the first thing would be the include MIME.types. And please refer to, as I already gave a disclaimer, this is not a production site. Please refer to the docs if you will be doing any production workloads. Yeah. And then now we specify the WebAssembly MIME type that I was telling you guys. And we just go ahead and do that. And that's the HTTP side of things. The next bit is the server. So how our website will be hosted. So we specify the server, you can say block in the Nginx configuration here, and we'll listen on port 80 because the Azure App Service plan that we'll be picking up, it figures out the SSL and all of that stuff, which is pretty amazing because I tried to deploy a container instance with the same Docker file. And with the container instance, because we were specifying port 80 here, you had to figure out the SSL cert yourself, which is a really good, I would say, feature of Azure App Service, is that it kind of does it by itself.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And now we just specify or tell Nginx where to look for our basically index.html and all the
so our actual application.
Yes, exactly. So we'll go, you can put in whatever you want. I'll be using local web app and then Nginx HTML as our directory here. Yep. And then we also specify which files it should look for. Yep, that seems right. And then index.html. Okay.
And in the browser, no, in the Explorer on the right side, could you show us which file it should be listening to? Or I guess looking for?
Oh, right now we have to do that in the Docker file.
Okay.
So
Makes sense.
so we'll be using a Linux container, and this is just telling Nginx, okay, look for my files here, and this is a file that we will be looking for. We still
Okay, I
haven't
see.
built our Blazor app, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is we will build our Blazor app by like .NET build or publish, and then we will copy our Blazor web app content to this directory right here.
So the Docker file is what goes and like provides this, and then Nginx can
Exactly.
go and like, all right, this is what I'm pulling, but we need that Docker file first. Okay, cool, makes sense. Awesome.
Yeah, so I think this looks complete. If chat has any questions, please let me know. But yeah, it's a basic Nginx configuration, nothing too fancy. I know like you can get really fancy with Nginx as a web server.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To recap this file. So, here in the MIME tab, we're using WebAssembly because the application is Blazor WebAssembly. But if you were using something else, you would put in here like what other things. Do you know of any other options that you could define here? Any other types that you would use?
I think you could. I don't know how like React and other like frameworks we have in JavaScript work, but definitely, yeah, the types like are pre-extended. I know because we use so Nginx can be also used as a load balancer,
Cool.
and I at work we only use it for load balancing purposes. But yeah, I think you can include like I would have to go through the documentation on what else could we include, but I know there are different frameworks.
Okay,
that
so
you can
basically,
have.
whatever you're trying to work with, you'll have to specify in that.
Exactly.
All right. Can we bring the screen back up? There we go. Okay, and then we have the server. We're listening to the port. It's pretty straightforward. And then the location, we're just telling Nginx, here's where you're going to go find the app that you actually have to serve. But this is actually going to be defined with the Docker file. So we need to, next step is going to be to create that.
Yep. So the next step
cool.
is to just create a Docker file in our directory here. So how Docker file works are you pull the base image from public repos that are hosted either on Docker, Hub, or somewhere else. So for our demo here, since we are using Blazor WebAssembly, we'll use the Microsoft's .NET SDK 5. I don't know. I think 6 is the latest, right?
5 is, I think, the like recommended current, and then 6 is, I mean, like next month, it's probably about to be the recommended version. So,
okay, yeah, I was hearing some chatter about it earlier in the week, but yeah, so pretty straightforward. We are pulling the .NET SDK and we are specifying it as build environment here. You can name this like as build too. And then we also have our working directory, which right now is our root and then source. What we do is now, since you can see the CS prod file here, which is the important one. So what we do is copy that over to our working directory on the container to build our web app, basically. So we do, I think it's called crypto ticker. Yep, crypto ticker .cs prod. And then we just copy it to the working directory, which is set to source here. And then we run the command. That's .NET. We also do a restore before doing publish. I think it's build and then publish. So we'll do a restore first of our, I'll just copy this because we'll be using it multiple times. And then we copy this over to, so whatever the restore comes back with. And then we run build command. So .NET build, and then you set the channel to these. Okay. And then we also set the output to build. So there will be a build directory on our container in the root folder here. And now we specify the publish. So we also have to specify which step to look for. So you can see that we had our build environment step here. So we'll say build environment and then use publish, run. This basically tells what steps are, just like we will do in the GitHub action. So GitHub action has like a build step, a publish or deploy step. This is pretty similar to that. If you're comparing like the CI/CD terms. But yeah, and then I just copy over the proj file here. So .NET publish, set to release channel, and then output here would be, yeah, that makes sense. So build goes to build, and then publish command. The output would go to the publish directory here. So this, I think we have, so I'll remove this space. So this can be counted as our first step, like building our actual project. This could be our second. And then what we do is, as you guys know, we are using Nginx. And I specified we have to pull the images. So just like we did here. So from Nginx Alpine, and this is not coming up with this. This is how you pull the Nginx image, and you can read the documentation. Oops. Yeah, let's name it final here. And then you guys remember we used this as our location for the file. So we'll go ahead, use that as our working directory now. And in our final step, the only thing left to do now is we copy from the publish command. So once .NET is done publishing the app, it creates all the necessary files in order to serve that web app. We just need to copy that over to our Nginx directory where Nginx is looking for those files. So copy, and then we specify our build step, which was from publish. We also, I think we called it publish. Yeah. So publish is our directory, and then www root is where all the web app files are, basically. And we just copy it to the directory we specified for Nginx to look for.
Okay.
Yeah, if we remove this, like we don't include working directory, we could specify the actual path here too. But this is just easier. And then we also copy our Nginx configuration that we created over to our Docker container here. So copy nginx.conf, and then copy it to Nginx, and then in nginx.conf. So this is, if you guys are familiar with Linux, most of the configuration of tools that you have installed lives in etc. I say it etc. I've heard some guys say
Etsy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Different names. But yeah, so basically we say, okay, we have our Nginx configuration that we want to use. So please copy that over to our Docker's image under this location. So this is basically our Docker file that's needed. I'll make sure, go ahead and save it. Yeah, as I said, like the part one kind of is for building our app. We are using .NET 5. And please chat, let me know if you have any questions. We are using .NET 5, and we set our working directory to source. We copy the CS proj file. We publish the .NET build command. And then we do our kind of a release, you can say, because we are running .NET publish in the second step here, following like, okay, after this, do this. And then the last step is to pull the Nginx image from the directory here, and then also specify that, okay, copy whatever the .NET publish command did in the previous step from the www root to the working directory that we'll be using in our Nginx conf here to serve our files. And then we also copy the configuration itself in order to utilize Nginx on the container. So yeah, that is kind of the process here.
Okay, cool. We have a question if you want to take it on now. It says Rishab mentioned about best practices or best for production environments. There's another way or other way around. Can you suggest here a link? So I think this is like you were talking about how when you work with production environments, there's sort of best practices that you need to keep in mind. Do you have anything that you could share? Or
yes, so go through their documentation. That's what we do because we utilize Nginx a lot in our production workloads. But as I suggested in the beginning, we only use it for
load balancing.
Yeah, here's the documentation, and they're pretty good, I would say. I know it's tedious to go through so many docs, but yeah, that's why I said like don't use. Yeah,
it's a necessity. Do you have any sort of examples of what we're doing now that is only good in a local environment?
Yeah, I just think that I'm too critical of the code that I write.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't. There will be several people who can specify what's wrong with my Nginx if we'll be using this to serve $1 million or $1 million visitor app on the internet. But yeah, top of my head, I cannot answer like what's wrong with it.
Okay. I mean, I'm assuming like the basics of like, you need to make sure you're like there's traffic that's specific from places, right? You don't want to accept like an application from anywhere and things like that, right? So it's like those general best practices.
The first thing that jumps out is port 80.
You're right.
And then you need to have SSL certs, and as you said, like make sure not like if it's not a publicly accessible site to not just open it to the world, kind of thing. But yeah, no, I think if you go through the docs and just some general Googling would help if you're trying to build a really traffic oriented app, I would say.
All right, cool. So let's go back to our Docker file. We're specifying how to build the app, release it. For those who are not .NET developers, the csproj file of a .NET project is the. Do you want to open it just so we can like just sort of describe? It's going to tell you the configuration, like which language you're using, which packages you're using, and things like that. So it basically describes what your project is actually doing. So yeah, we're building that, we're publishing that, and then with publishing, we sort of create a version that's sort of web ready. Because often, like when you are working with something locally, there are things that don't need to be pushed to production, whether that be because Azure takes care of it, or it's already available on whatever it's being deployed, or you're pulling it in GitHub Actions or whatever it might be. So the actual like creating a release and then creating a published version is like, all right, this is this group, this folder, whatever it might be, this app is ready for you to take the files and put them somewhere, right? And then finally, we're telling Docker, hey, this is our Nginx configuration that we're using, and we created the Nginx config beforehand, right? So I think that's where we're at right now. All right, cool. What's the next step?
So I would love to build it locally first, the Docker image itself, just to see if we have the configuration right on the Nginx serving our app. Completed, particular, yep. And then, as I specified, you just do Docker, the right directory. Yeah, okay. That'll fail otherwise. Build T, well, let's name this as demo. Yeah, that looks right. And then we just say, yeah, we are in the root of this folder. Invalid argument, demo crypto. I have C. Okay, so there we go.
Wait, it doesn't
Um,
accept uppercase? What was
yeah,
the
it
error?
doesn't.
Ah, interesting. Okay. What is the -T for? The -T argument?
The tag.
Oh, tag -T. Okay,
Yeah.
so right now we're building it, and then we're creating. What gets created as demo-crypto? Like what?
A container image.
Okay, so a container. Right now we're building a container image called demo-crypto.
Yeah.
So when would you have to build it again? Like if you applied, like if you make changes to the Docker file, you have to do another build?
Even to our app, because it uses the CS project, right?
Ah, okay. So if we make any changes in our app that would reflect with a change, so like adding a package or something in our CS project, we would have to build our Docker image again.
Yeah.
And can we use the same name? Like it just gets like overwritten, or is there like versioning?
Yeah. So when we jump into the GitHub Actions, I'll show, because it will be using Container Registry. We could overwrite again and again, but we'll use something as like we could use timestamp or some kind of auto-generated tags, or most like in the past I've used latest, so I know what I'm building and the image is latest. But yeah, with that it just overwrites the old one. But you can specify a timestamp, a tag.
Okay. All right.
That's
cool.
not same.
So it looks like this is built correctly. I don't see any errors.
Yep. So the final step ran, it copied over. Yep. So it named our Docker image as demo crypto. Now we'll do is run Docker run, and then we specify the port. 3501, since we already have the other Docker image running. And then we specify the port for our Docker
Nginx.
container. Yeah, which is the container is serving the app through Nginx on Port 80. So yep. And then we just specify whatever we named our Mr. Dash demo crypto. Okay. Yep. Oh yeah, missed an S.
So now, okay, so we made a mistake in the Nginx config. Now we have to like build our Docker file again.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So
All right,
any
cool.
changes, we have to rebuild the container.
Okay. That was a pretty easy thing to debug. I know Andrew here's asking, is there any way you normally debug your Docker files to avert some logical errors? Here was one. This was pretty straightforward because the output was pretty, the console output was pretty easy to like help you. But I don't know, did you encounter any other errors and sort of what was like your troubleshooting, your steps?
Not as of right now. And another disclaimer is I'm not a long-time user of Docker. I just picked it up, like, I don't know.
Recently?
Yeah. 2 months ago or a month ago. So I know there are practices that we need to have. I know someone on our team has some steps in Azure pipelines to do that kind of debugging. So we are not deploying buggy container images to production.
Right. Okay, awesome. So you built the image again, right? And now or are you about to build it now? Oh no, you're about to run it now.
Yeah, we will run it and see if that error goes away. We're still using the same code here. MIME type failed, no such file or directory. Okay. Who want to take a guess what's wrong?
There's a space, there's a semicolon wrong. I don't know what missing.
I missed 2 S's. Okay.
You missed 2 S's?
Oh, first I missed an S with the events, and then this time it was the mime.types.
Oh, it's type. It's okay. All right.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it again then. Let's build
Let's see.
again.
And as you're seeing, like the build times are getting faster, right? The first time we built it, it took a bit long.
Mhm.
And this is just because we're for the first time when it pulled that image. I think
Mhm.
it takes long, and then it caches whatever we are pulling from external resources like the Microsoft SDK and the Nginx.
Does VS Code have some sort of IntelliSense for when you're creating Docker files? Do you know?
I think so. And I think so because I was suggested something. You know how you create a file and VS
And
Code
it'll tell
says,
you which extension. Yeah.
install this extension. Okay, so we
All right,
are
let's
done
see
with
now.
build.
Third time's a
Looks-
charm.
Yep, looks good. So if we go here, local.
Does it output you where you can go to? Does it give you a URL in the terminal output?
No, but you can there are ways around it. Don't think so. But since
Okay.
we like specified the port, I kind of know where to look at. But yeah,
Mhm.
I think it does. You need to have there's a flag that you can have, I think.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
in the
Cool.
command.
So can you zoom in so we can see like the URL that you're going to?
Yep. So
Oh, it doesn't zoom. All right. Well,
it's localhost :3501 because we
Mhm.
use that port to map towards port 80 of the container image.
Mhm.
And if we go in, so it loads our .NET Picker app,
Mhm.
and fingers crossed, if the functions are still working, we should be getting our crypto prizes.
You know what? Yesterday I was going through my resource groups and cleaning them up because I'm migrating stuff from a subscription to another one.
Yeah.
And a good thing I didn't touch this one.
Yeah, then we would have to debug that.
Yeah, I had to quickly debug that. Okay, awesome. So we've got it running locally. We got our Nginx config, Docker file, our container image, and now everything's running locally. What's our next step?
Deploying to Azure. So
All right.
There's this learn or demo here where you can deploy container images to Azure App Service. And just to make it under the 60-minute mark, I have already created, we already have the repo in GitHub. We already have an Azure account, and we also have a container registry, which would hold our Docker image. And I've also created an Azure App Service plan where the image will be hosted. So if there are any questions in regards to that, I know this is in the links, so go ahead and check this out. It will help you if you run into any issues while creating all those resources.
Yeah, we're just skipping over some prerequisites to save time.
Yeah.
All right,
And
cool.
yeah, so you also need credentials to be able to communicate your GitHub account. So GitHub Actions can communicate to Azure in order to do a deployment. So I have gone ahead and basically ran the same command to just give me
what you need to authenticate your application with Azure AD and RBAC. Yeah. Okay.
And I've went ahead so that people don't steal my credentials and put it into the repo here. So if
you've added it to the
so the environment
as a secret.
Yeah. So
okay,
we have
cool.
3 credentials here. So one is the Azure credentials, which is just a JSON file, which you would get when you run this command. Your output should look like this. The other 2 are the registry username and password. So since we are using Azure Container Registry, it needs a way to authenticate to that in order to upload our Docker image. So I have gone ahead and added that too here. But now if we go back to our code here real quick, and we go to, I'm confused where we should do the action thing. Should we do it in VS Code or should we do it in GitHub itself? Let's do it in GitHub.
Yeah, let's do it in GitHub.
Okay. So actions, we'll go ahead and create a new workflow. So there are a lot of templates available. For that, I don't know if there's already a template for the Azure App Service and Docker container. But we'll name this as, let's keep it main.
Okay.
And if we go here in the module itself,
It gives us some YAML already.
yes, so it gives us a YAML that specifies on how to build the image. So if we copy this over here,
love it. Copy paste development, love it.
Yep. So we'll go over this step by step. So it has.
Do you want to make it a little bigger? Can you?
Sure.
Or are you like? Try one more. Is that that top? There we go. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, cool. So yeah. So basically on push, so every time we do a push to our main branch, I'll do the build steps here on Ubuntu latest. It's using Azure Docker logins. And we already specified these environment secrets or environment variables, GitHub secrets, which is the registry username and password, which it uses to authenticate to our Azure Container Registry. But just to keep a note that our container registry's name is different. So we'll change that.
Okay.
Right here. Okay. And you can see the commands that we run basically locally. So
locally.
Docker build, dot, and then the TF is for the app. But our container registry is different. Yep. And we'll also name this as crypto. And change. So it does the build, and then it does the push to the container registry. So Docker build and Docker push. I changed the container registry URL here, and we also changed the name to crypto ticker.
Okay.
And you can also see it uses a github.sha as the tag. So either you can use your own tags here. So crypto ticker, and this is just for versioning the image. So you can version the container image saying latest or 1.1.0, 0.0.1, things like that. We'll just leave it to this for now.
Okay.
Yep. So that is our first step where we just build and push the image to container registry, which resides in Azure, utilizing the credentials we provide. The next step, so we already are good till here, the build and push. The next step is to use the deploy action. So it specifies Azure /web apps deploy. And then we specify the app name. So whatever our app is called in Azure in the app service plan. And then we also specify which image should it deploy, which resides in our container registry. And since all of this is a part of one step in our GitHub action, it is pretty easy, but you can have them as multiple steps or multiple, actions. So if we go, and I'm just gonna cheat again by just copy pasting the YAML here. Sure we have that on a different line. Okay. So we have basically the same bottom step right here. And we
just got to change the names.
Make sure we change the name of our app here, or sorry, the image. And we also have to change the name of our app. So we go back to our resource group. And as I said, I already have the app service. It's called Crypto Ticker. Make sure it's the right name.
The crypto dash ticker?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So if we go here and name it, whatever the name is in Azure, I do a commit. Okay, I'm just going to zoom out because I can't see the commit new file. Okay. So this is our
entire action.
Yep. Our,
Okay.
Just a second. Did I miss? No. So these are the credentials.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Thought we missed something.
Oh, the login, right?
Yeah. So
very important.
yeah. So we need to be able to log in because the registry username and password thing is only applicable for the container registry itself. And in order to do a deploy to Azure App Service, we need a login, which cannot be accessed through the registry username and password.
Right.
So if you go back.
So this is basically authenticating with Azure itself. And then the next step would be, with the actual service. Yeah. Okay.
So check out GitHub action. Yeah, that looks right. Oh, so in their steps, it uses this. So we'll need to do a modification here. Uses, okay. Yeah, I'm just making sure I don't paste it over wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that looks right. We'll add a space to just keep it.
So it looks nicer.
A pad, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is, as you can see, the name suggests it's logging into the Azure CLI, and this uses Docker login to log into our container registry here. But yeah, that is what we were missing. Okay, to commit this again. So we have our GitHub action here. We have our Docker build push commands, and we also have the Azure App Service to deploy that Docker image to the app service. So if you go under actions, and we go here. Oh, it's already running.
It's running. Oh, because you did a commit.
Yep. Okay. So run Docker build and work.
Ooh, we got to fail. Okay. No such file.
Okay. Oh, I see.
What's the error?
I kind of know.
No such file or directory. Okay. So I got to edit the YAML again.
Yeah, because there is no Docker file in our root directory.
Oh, we didn't push.
Oh no, you're right.
Now you'll have to do a pull. Because you added the GitHub action, the YAML, right? So you have to pull, and then you should be able to do commit. While you do that, I'll answer this question. Does GitHub Actions have any rollback policies in case your Docker build fails or you deploy the wrong image tag? I don't think it has any rollback policies by default. I think all of that you have to set up on your own.
Sorry, I missed that. What was the question again?
Oh, does GitHub Actions have any rollback policies in case your Docker build fails or you deploy the wrong image tag? What was that?
So it won't push out if the Docker file has any errors. I don't know if it has the functionality to see, because the Docker file itself can be correct, but there can be issues. Let's say our CS proj is not right. So the app itself can be broken. I don't know if there is a rollback policy there.
I don't think it's like by default. I think everything you have to like specify it.
Yep.
Yeah. Someone says some topics to cover: Azure DevOps versus GitHub, Dapper, Azure Log Analytics. I've been hearing a lot about Dapper lately. I have to look into it. But those are some good recommendations. All right, where are we at?
So I just did a pull and then I did a push.
Okay, so now it should be running again.
So it's in, yep. So we have the Docker file. We also have the Nginx. How are we doing on the time?
We're good. We have
cool. Okay.
5-ish minutes. Is that good?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. We could go a little longer if we need to. All right. So where do you want to go into the action that's running right now? Cool.
Nope. My bad. Okay,
then-
build again. No such file. Oh, let me look at the action.
Is the directory in the action specifying the right place to look for the Docker file?
No. Yeah. So, so as you guys could see, we don't have a Docker file in the root directory, and
We
we didn't
don't.
specify.
You have to
the
go into
completed directory.
completed. Okay, so now we go and edit the YAML.
Yes.
This is my experience with GitHub Actions. Like the actual actions itself, the building, all stuff like works fine. It's always, my errors always happen with specifying directories, not telling it to go to the right place. Oh, do I need a // here? Do I need just a slash here? Things like that. It's always a pain.
Yeah, and I think in the past it was difficult. I recently came across this, that you can have default so that you don't have to specify every time, especially in our case, because we'll be using just a completed directory.
Mhm.
I feel like we'll just use the completed rather than like specifying
Any other? Okay.
yes,
Okay.
each
Cool.
step. Working directory.
So defaults are sort of like variables you want to use throughout the entire GitHub action.
Defaults are and the entire action. That's correct.
Okay.
Completed.
Okay, cool.
Completed.
/ crypto ticker, I think, because it's in the crypto. Yeah.
Completed. Yep.
And then it's down. It's in there.
Crypto ticker. That looks right. Start commit. Okay. Let's go.
All right, let's see. Hasn't failed yet. Can you scroll down a little, or is that all the? Okay, it's pulling in.
live.
All right, cool. I think we've got. I'm gonna make sure we didn't lose any questions in here. Someone says, "Love your content, Gwyneth. Keep them coming." I appreciate that. Where were we? Okay, cool. All right, so we're at the build. This is longer than any of our previous runs, so this is hopeful. This is good.
Yeah, so we are basically on the steps that we did locally. Docker. Yeah, so Docker build.
Mhm.
And the only difference is instead of doing a Docker run, it'll do a Docker push to the container registry. Okay, run .NET publish.
Almost there.
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, if we have a couple more minutes here as we're finishing here, but then I'm assuming once this is done, we can go into the portal and take a look at the actual deployed, like in the service, and then we'll have a URL like a public URL that we could visit.
Yeah, we'll have a URL through the app service.
Okay, cool.
And also once it's done the Docker push part of it, we should be able to see the image in the container registry.
Oh, cool. All right. Is there a recording of the session? I needed to jump in prod issue and miss it. Yeah, well, you can check out the Microsoft Reactor YouTube or my YouTube. The entire thing has been recorded and it'll be there. So lots of good stuff. I've learned a lot. I feel like I can go Dockerize this thing on my own. It probably will a little later, but fantastic. Yeah. So now we're waiting for the build section to finish. Where are we at?
Yeah. So it's waiting for the Nginx, which was the final step in our Docker build.
Mm-hmm.
It copied over the Nginx file right here, and then it copied the image to Azure Container Registry. As you can see, the push refers to repository, and now it's doing app service deploy.
Okay.
So
cool.
while it does that, because that's it was getting boring, we'll go ahead and look at our container registry.
Okay, so the image has been already pushed to container registry. All right, cool.
Here it is. What did we name it?
Crypto dash ticker? No? I think so.
No,
crypto
dash.
ticker, no dash. Okay.
Okay. So this is 12:59. Yeah, so it's 12:59 right now.
And that tag is from that, so that GitHub SHA. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So
that's
you
why
can,
it's like random.
you can,
specify what you want the tag to be. Okay. Cool. All right. So our image is there. Cool. And I think we got all greens in the GitHub action from if we go back. Yeah, it looks like everything works. So now we should be able to see it deployed in the app service.
And it also
and it gives us a URL there. Wow.
URL right in the action. But yeah, we'll go ahead and look at the portal too, just to make sure we can see the resources there. But yeah.
Okay, so this is the app that was running locally. We put it in a container image, and now it's in Container Registry, and it's also deployed on App Service, and it's working, right? It's working. It should be working. Let's see why it wouldn't work. Very cool. Let's take a look at the portal, and then I feel like we could end. We're right on time right now.
Yep. Resource. Go way back. CryptoTicker was our app service, and yeah, so this is basically the
our URL
of the app service.
Is there somewhere here which shows us, oh, this is what's getting deployed, or like this is the image getting deployed, or this is
should if you go
maybe deployment, quick deployment slots.
So
here we go.
So what? Oh, I need a subscription. But yeah, activity log shows it too. Whatever was happening to that app service.
Once it loads. There we go. Perfect. Okay.
So 2 minutes ago, it got the publishing profile, update website config, and then it restarted. I don't know how much of the details are in.
Oh, cool. Look at that. All right, awesome. We covered a lot in this hour, or a little bit over time. If anyone has any last minute questions, I'd love to. Rishab is here at the moment. But yeah, we Dockerized the Blazor WebAssembly application. Nginx config Docker file, deployed it locally, and then we used GitHub Actions, which is very important. CI/CD pipelines, DevOps, all those kinds of things, to deploy it for us. That way you don't manually have to do things. So anytime you apply any changes in your GitHub repo, that action is going to run. And it gets deployed to container. The image gets deployed to Container Registry in Azure, and then the actual image which runs the application gets served via App Service to the public. Can GitHub Actions handle the whole CI/CD process, or is it just deployments? It can handle the entire thing.
Yeah, it can handle the entire thing, and we'll probably do it again. Not on the session, but I want to do one where it uses container instances in Azure. And I think the GitHub Actions for that specific deployment is a bit tricky than what we have here. But it's amazing to just see, I think we only had 2 steps in our GitHub Actions file.
Yeah.
You're able to deploy your container image.
Yeah, how much GitHub Actions can automate for you, I think is incredible. And just the fact that you're already using GitHub for your code, so your version control, and then which is part of your CI/CD, and then having the rest of and then there's, you can incorporate testing and all that kind of stuff, right? This is a very basic version of what you can do with GitHub Actions. But I think this was fantastic, everyone. This is the end of the developer series that we sort of put together for this September. If you're interested in cloud administration, which is personally my favorite because it's my background, sort of where I come from in terms of engineering and cloud computing, we're gonna have an entire series on that next month. I can't remember if the next session is next week. I think it's next week. But anyway, Rishab, thank you so much. I don't know, Rebecca, are you coming back on, or are we ending it here? But also thank you to the chat for all the questions and comments.
Thank you guys so much. So yeah, this is fantastic. I'm going to quickly, with that shout out, I should have done it before. I'm going to drop this upcoming series into the chat too, so you guys can all have that, and I'll throw that up on the screen. So if you're joining us for the first time, whether you came through one of Gwyn's channels or through the Reactor, do join our community. We're always putting out a lot of great content. We're always putting stuff through. So feel free to check out our website, our meetup, check out Gwyn's next series, and
Please.
have a good one.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Take care, all.